Chapter 12, Self-Concept and Lifestyle. This opening vignette is about females, and this is one way of dividing and identifying different segments. Conspicuous consumers, 19%, prestige, status, so you emphasize prestige and status. Information seekers, 27%, luxury, they want information, so you give quality and trends. Sensation seekers, 30%, aesthetics, color, so you have eye-catching coordinated things. Utilitarian, 25%, want comfort, functionality, so you advertise price, function, value. Makes sense, right? You break people down into targets because each target can be more profitable in a niche if you can make products just exactly for them. Self-concept, the totality of the individual's thoughts and feelings having reference to himself or herself as an object. So it's the attitude you hold toward yourself. So if you look at the dimensions of your self-concept, again, if you have a master's, you can make a matrix. So the dimensions in here about your self-concept and ideal concept have to do with your private one and your social one. Independent self-concept emphasizes personal goals, characteristic achievements, and desires. Interdependent, family, cultural, professional, and social relationships. So there are different concepts. Don't assume what you believe is right for everybody else. Possessions and the extended self. You are yourself plus all the possessions, because a lot of your possessions have personal meaning. Things like your rings, your photographs, your souvenirs from places you've been. There are a lot of things that are very important to us individually, maybe not to anybody else, but to us. There are different kinds of experiences, something that's over the top, you never forget. Just the endowment effect, that once you have something, you like it more than you liked it before. Brand engagement, the extent to which an individual includes important brands as part of his or her self-concept. Research shows that the strongest predictor of brand engagement is materialism. Certain people really care about brands. You need to find them, target them, if that's your job, to sell to that market. Fans, consumer devotion, and the extended self. Fans are super lovers. They end up basically positive word of mouth, active recruiting. They do all kinds of wonderful things for you. It's great if you have a fan base. Measuring self-concept. If you're going to manage it, it must be measurable. There are charts from this extreme to this extreme on a lot of different factors. You can use things like this to map for yourself, for products, for all different kinds of things. To position that using self-concept, that's kind of takes into the account the fake it till you make it thing of being aspirational and aligning with people. Marketing ethics and the self-concept. Beautiful, defined as young, slim, kind of a certain kind of face. Some people are concerned that obsession with physical appearance is kind of not good. Obviously, there are a lot of ads that vary from this and include all kinds of people. So I think that's kind of cool. They talk about young women who have bad self-concepts because of the things they see in ads, but they're ads that target older women who are much more inclusive. That's going to drift down to the younger market to where everybody should feel good about themselves. I'll guarantee you, as you get old, you look back at your photo album, you see these pictures of yourself when you were younger where you thought, oh my goodness, I'm just such a goof, I don't look right. You look back at it and you think, oh goodness, what I know now, I would have been happy. So anyway, you always forgive yourself as you're older, and you should be much kinder to yourself and not compare yourself with what you see on TV, because it's really baloney and it's way outside the range of normal. It's just supposed to be aspirational. Don't fall for it. Nature lifestyle, that's how you live. There are independent people and interdependent people. That's kind of like the two schisms earlier. What you desire, your aspirations is kind of what drives you. You can call that your needs, but sometimes it's just your desires. Measurements of lifestyle, psychographics. These are things where they go through and not just measure your personality, but measure how you live, how you want to live. They look at attitudes, values, activities, demographics, media patterns, usage rates. Some of the ones, in fact, I talked about the one with zip codes the week week one, but VALS and PRISM are pretty well known. They're basically based on, a lot of times, on zip code, or associated with zip code. There are different ways of targeting people by breaking them into patterns, by taking lots of data, categorizing it, chunking it into pieces, and trying to name it. It makes it a lot easier to market when you can name it and describe it and have a clear target market. So you go along and look at the different ones. There's this company, here's Experian. This is the Experian list here. Wizards, journeymen, apprentices, novices. This is kind of about how they see technology, how comfortable down to not so comfortable. Oops, I think I skipped an extra page. Okay, the VALS system. The VALS system has been around for a long time. It actually changes a little bit. They change some of the terms and things over time, but they break people down by different kind of motivations and then by different kinds of resources. That's basically your ability to act. You can notice in the media patterns, if you study the groups on the next page, you can see that different groups use different media. So over here, here's a typical VALS framework. People at the highest levels supposedly use word type media. They lean in and seek information. People at the lower resource level tend to lean back and take more passive approach to things. PRISM, that's Nielsen. PRISM is really associated with zip codes. So they go through and group you into groups based on where you live, which is totally zip codey. So they get all this information and they try to match it with income and wealth. Okay, so PRISM segments are like young people, blue bloods, big fish, small pond. A lot of these are really based on your zip code, and they try to get as much information as they can, age, income, things like that. So here's an application. A casino wanted to identify different customers, so it took its customer database. Now in your customer database you have a huge amount of information, but primarily you pretty much have the zip. They can also infer or add the age. A lot of people provide their birthdays on different things for verifications. They can also ascertain, or in other places, get your income, build all that kind of stuff up. They can get your purchase history. They can get a lot of different information within that. What they do is they look for commonalities within certain zip codes, and then they go around the country and find zip codes that have the same attributes, and they merge them together, and they can find people all across the country, people who can travel, or people who are close, or people within different mile sets for different incentives and programs to market to them. So most of this is oriented to the United States. It's been around a long time, but now they're trying to move out into other countries. So Roper Starch Worldwide is also doing research globally, and they've identified all these different segments that are mostly, Europe, Asia, things like that, Latin America. So here we are at the learning objectives. You know what that means. We're at the end of the chapter. That's the end of chapter 12.